The lights at the Etihad Stadium burned bright on a chilly January evening, the air thick with anticipation and the faint smell of rain on concrete. Manchester City versus Chelsea, a fixture that never fails to deliver drama, and tonight, with the Blues arriving without a permanent manager and the champions chasing Arsenal's shadow, it felt like the Premier League had saved its best script for this Sunday night showdown. Pep Guardiola stood in his technical area, hands buried deep in his puffer jacket pockets, eyes narrowed as he watched his team stroke the ball around in those familiar, hypnotic patterns. Rodri was back, finally, gliding across the midfield like he'd never been away, and alongside him Tijjani Reijnders buzzed with intent. Up top, Erling Haaland prowled, a Viking in sky blue, waiting for the one pass that would unleash him. Across the pitch, interim boss Calum McFarlane, barely older than some of the players he was coaching, paced nervously. Enzo Maresca's abrupt exit had left the dressing room reeling, but the young caretaker had rallied his troops with simple words: fight for each other. Cole Palmer, returning to his old stomping ground, exchanged a quick glance with Phil Foden, old friends, now enemies for 90 minutes. Enzo Fernández clapped his hands sharply, urging focus. This Chelsea side might be wounded, but they weren't broken. The game exploded into life early. In the 8th minute, Rodri slid a perfect through ball into the channel. Haaland took one touch, set himself, and unleashed a rocket that thumped against the inside of the post. The rebound fell kindly, but Filip Jorgensen flung himself across goal to claw away Foden's follow-up. The Etihad roared. This was the City everyone feared. Yet Chelsea refused to fold. Malo Gusto and Josh Achampong, two young fullbacks thrust into the spotlight, threw themselves into every tackle. Reece James, wearing the armband, barked orders like a general. Every time City poured forward, a blue shirt appeared to block, intercept, or simply hustle them off the ball. It was gritty, defiant, and, against all odds, it was working. The breakthrough came just before halftime, and it was a moment of pure quality. Bernardo Silva, eternal and ageless, picked off a loose pass in midfield and immediately released the ball wide. It bounced kindly in the box, and there was Reijnders, arriving late, unmarked, full of confidence. He met it sweetly on the half volley, left foot, rising into the top corner. Jorgensen didn't even move. 1-0, the stadium erupted. Guardiola allowed himself the smallest of smiles. As the teams walked off at the break, you could feel the momentum swinging decisively toward the home side. City were in control. One more goal and this would be over. But football, as we all know, loves to laugh at certainty. The second half began with City in full flow. Ryan Cherki danced past two defenders and curled a shot that Jorgensen tipped over spectacularly. Haaland rose highest from the resulting corner, but his header flashed just wide. Wave after wave crashed against the Chelsea goal, and still it held. Jorgensen was having the game of his life, diving, punching, commanding his box like a veteran. McFarlane threw on fresh legs, Andre Santos for energy, Liam Delap for physicality. Slowly, almost imperceptibly, Chelsea began to creep up the pitch. Palmer started finding pockets. Fernandes began dictating tempo. The crowd grew restless. Then, in the 90th minute, the moment that almost changed everything. Fernandes spun away from Rodri with a silky roulette, slid Neto clean through, one-on-one. The winger opened his body, and blazed it over the bar. The Etihad exhaled in relief. Chelsea players sank to their knees. That, surely, was their chance gone. 4 minutes of added time were shown on the board. City tried to slow the game down, keep possession, see it out. But Chelsea had other ideas. A free kick wide on the left. Palmer swung it in. Chaos. The ball pinged around the 6-yard box, a shin, a knee, a desperate City clearance that only went as far as the edge of the area. It dropped back into the danger zone. Bodies flew in. And there, in the middle of it all, was Enzo Fernández. He didn't catch it cleanly. He couldn't have. But he threw himself at it, bundling the ball over the line from barely a yard out as Donnarumma sprawled in vain. The net bulged. The away end exploded. Fernández disappeared under a pile of blue shirts while the rest of the stadium fell silent, stunned. 1-1, 94 minutes. A point snatched from the jaws of defeat. As the final whistle blew moments later, Guardiola stood motionless, staring at the pitch as if trying to make sense of what he'd just witnessed. Haaland kicked the advertising boards in frustration. Across the way, McFarlane was mobbed by his players, a young coach who had just earned his first big result in the hottest of seats. Fernández, mud-streaked and beaming, applauded the travelling fans. Palmer embraced Foden at the final whistle, respect between friends. The Premier League title race had taken another twist, and Chelsea, against all odds, had reminded everyone that heart can still beat talent on any given night. The Etihad emptied slowly, the home fans subdued, the away fans singing into the Manchester night. Football, in all its cruel and beautiful glory, had delivered once again. And somewhere, in the middle of it all, a caretaker manager and a team without a permanent boss had just written the latest chapter in one of the league's great rivalries, a chapter that no one will forget anytime soon.